Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter. I'm joined by Tara, and we talk about TV shows here. The year is 2022, and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 4, episode 13. It is called Rumors, Bargains, and Lies. And this episode shows how Sheridan manipulates lots and lots of different civilizations to do what he wants. Which sounds malicious on paper, but it's a best of intentions. Best of intentions at heart.
They're all just rumors, that's all.
I did have fun with this though. There's this plot line in this episode, which is Sheridan has convinced Londo and Jakar to do what he was doing last episode, which is let us have White Star ships border your, or patrol your borders of your space sectors, for the Drax, for raiders, that kind of thing. But he has the genius idea this episode of basically realizing that trying to tell all the other races that they have to let them do this, it'll be really tough. So instead, he makes it something that he doesn't tell them about. The idea being, if they just catch enough info, if they just sniff it enough, that they'll get jealous that the Centauri and the Narn are getting this extra protection, and then they'll just want it because they think there's a threat that no one's talking about. And sure enough, by the end, like they do, they demand that they want White Star protection, and that they will aid the White Star fleet in future issues. So, what did you make of this?
It was okay. I think that I guess I'll elaborate a little. I think Ivanova kind of has a good point where she's like, hey, we're trying to start, Babcom TV here so that we can put the truth out there. And right now you're trying to like manipulate that in order to get what you want out of it, which, I mean, if that's the only way to get it, then sure, I guess it's ethical.
Well, not to be fair, he points out that what he's having her say is accurate.
Sure.
He tells her to say that nothing happened in this sector today, and that is true. Nothing happened in this sector. It's just that by saying that, you're implying that something did and you're lying about it. But they're not. Nothing happened in that sector.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. He has Cole go out and shoot some rocks to to make people think there's been some sort of fight when there wasn't one. Just all these little things. He has Franklin go up and kind of say, oh, we need some blood supplies from all your different species just in case we have patients coming in if there's some sort of crisis. Just all these little things without ever saying that anything's happening, so he's never actually lying about anything. It's all just making a bunch of races very paranoid. It's all about the implication. So that's all it is. The implication. Cue It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia music.
Oh, yeah. It's not a nice thing to to remember.
I mean, it's a dark joke.
The implication, yeah.
It's a dark joke on that show, yes. But I said implication like 3 times, so now all I'm thinking about is Dennis saying it's the implication.
Yeah. Dennis is a horrible monster. Hilarious, though.
I mean, they're all horrible. I mean, I've always described It's Always Sunny as it's like kind of like Seinfeld, but they're even more cartoony. Like it's like they're awful people, but they turn it up to like 11 on It's Always Sunny.
Yep. It's an all right plot beat. I don't know. It's a bit silly, but like it works in the end. I guess you're right. I mean, he's not really lying, but like it just seems very manipulative and wrong. But they need protection whether they accept it or not. So if this is a way for them to accept it, then fine.
It's kind of like talking to a child. You're sort of tricking the child into accepting the thing that's for their own good. There's a little bit of that vibe to it, which again, you could argue if that's right or wrong. I mean, I think the plot line in this episode, though, is meant to be the lighter plot line. It's a very light-hearted, funny at times plot where, whether it's the start of the episode where Sheridan's laughing to himself and not talking to the others at breakfast, and them all just been like, why Sheridan being so weird? I guess we'll just talk about things. Well, Sheridan giggles to himself. And which is actually quite effective, because later on, when the aftermath of what's going on with the Lens plot is mentioned on Bab TV, and we see Sheridan like react to hearing about what's going on Minbar, it kind of like, oh, all of a sudden seeing him look this concerned, kind of like, it's really effective because he's been so jovial throughout the. I mean, hell, when he convinces the other species to all like demand this protection, he walks into the elevator and shouts, "Yes!" As the doors close. I'm surprised it wasn't a woohoo. We know he likes a woohoo when he's happy.
Yeah, I thought that too.
I know you did. You know you did.
I did. I wanted to end though.
This is just me keeping this going. You knew that's what came into your head when he shouted that.
Yeah.
Yep. So I thought the contrast with that was really nice because that's kind of part of what this plot is. It's obviously it's important for setting up all these plot threads that are going on in the larger scheme of things. But in this episode specifically, it's to counterbalance the more dramatic plot that's going on with Valen and the more serious plot that she's having, which is that of betrayal and like the sort of where stakes are high. And we weren't sure we were going to see too much of this like potential Minbari civil war, and I think we got more in this episode than I was expecting. But I did think it was kind of neat to actually now have like a conflict within just one of the key races that we've been dealing with, and just seeing them having to deal with that on their own, which we do. We see Neron shows back up, and like he's from the warrior caste, and is Valen wants to form kind of an alliance with them and saying, no, we can't let either side win, because if either side wins, then it'll never go back to peace again. It'll either way, like Minbar is screwed if only one caste is in charge, so we have to find a way to solve this. And there's various elements at play. That's obviously the ultimate final element is that he seemingly has betrayed her, and this was all just a game plan to try and get some of their plans and what the religious castes are doing in the capital. And he's like, yeah, we're going to squash them. It ends in that really bittersweet note of him flying away. When you think she's gotten through to him and you think that she has convinced them that they have to work together, and that hurts. It's a sad moment, but
yeah, I did like this plot line a lot more, and it was interesting to see. Like, the conflict is obviously already started, like their cities are on fire, although they're made of crystals, so that did make me question, like, how are they on fire if they're crystal based?
The crystals on Minbar aren't necessarily the same as crystals on Earth.
Okay.
They have a different periodic table, okay? The crystals are flammable. And I think it's just the one. I think it's just the one city. I think they specified that the fighting's only in the capital right now.
Yeah.
It hasn't spread to the other cities yet.
Maybe it's all this stuff, like all the benches and stuff that they have that are on fire. All the trees have caught fire, and that's why we don't see any.
Well, I think they've built like rooms and stuff inside the crystals, haven't they? So maybe it's the stuff inside that's igniting.
Maybe.
That makes sense.
Yep, I enjoyed this plot. Just getting more lore of the different caste systems and on Minbar and how they work, and just that. Yeah, there's the warrior caste. It's like House Slytherin. You just can't trust any of them. If they choose warrior caste, they probably just want war.
I mean, you say that, but it's not like the religious caste in this episode come out looking too great either. Like
they don't.
The big part of the plot.
Do we see any of the working cast?
No,
not
really. I guess they're like. I mean, this won't make any sense to you, this comparison, but I guess what I was getting from this, because we're always dealing with the religious and the warrior caste, is that the worker caste are kind of like the belters in the Expanse, where Earth and Mars are constantly the ones like in power, and the belters are the forgotten third party. Which, to be honest, makes me think the working caste are going to eventually rebel, because they're the ones who are like just ignored all the time.
We're tired of all your shit. Yeah.
So maybe that's a future plot they can do, is the working caste will rise up and fight back both the other castes in power. But no, a big part of the plot of this episode is the working caste on the ship do not like that Valen's talking to Neron, and they.
You mean the religious caste? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, the religious caste, and they start to like question if Delen's making the right choices, and then ultimately say, I heard her say we can't let the religious caste win, and she did technically say that, but she also said we can't let the warrior caste win. We can't let either side win, and they very quickly go, well, our lives are meaningless in this. We have to stop this ship ever getting home so that we don't like let them mess with the war. So they try and poison the entire ship, and poor Lennier has to almost kill himself.
Again, this is the second time, right?
Yeah. The poor boy, he's put himself in trouble, and more than one occasion. And what's really interesting is that at one point, one of the warrior caste attacks Neron, and this was actually quite a nice swerve because we get to see the religious caste like plotting their little plan, and that's what the tension's been built around. So when one of the warrior caste just out of nowhere tries to attack Neron, it's kind of like, oh shit, you actually swerving with that. But it doesn't feel like a cheap shock though, because if the religious caste are doing all this plotting behind each other's backs because they don't trust Delen, then it makes sense that the warrior caste have got the same weird feelings about Neron. So it was a very effective little twist, if you want to even call it a twist, I guess. But
Oh, right, but isn't it like Neron's still like, backstabbing at the end of it?
Well, yes, but I mean, do his crew know that? Or the other? Because when he's flying back at the end, he's on his own.
Yeah, that's true.
He's taking like a little shuttle.
Like, yes, everything's going exactly as planned.
Yeah,
they fell for the bait.
So I mean, you could argue, I suppose, that the warrior who attacked him it was just an act to gain Delen's trust. This was like this will really make her think that I'm on her side. You could argue that, I suppose, but it works either way. But it felt effective in the moment because it made sense that they'd be having the same backstabbing if the religious caste, and because I guess we at least think of the religious caste as being the less likely to do all this scheming. So the fact that they're doing it is like, well, obviously the warrior caste are also doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I like that this plot is being explored. Since the disassembly of the Grey Council, like what that does to the society on Minbar now. Like in the big war is over, so like now they can just focus on internal stuff, like how do we run a planet without our usual system set up? Like, can it be done, or is war inevitable? Stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think one of my favorite little moments of the episode is when Delen's talking to Lennier, and I can't remember exactly what got into the subject. They're just sort of like talking about the struggles and like how difficult it is. And Lennier mentions Valen and talks about how, because she's blaming herself. I think that's what it was. Yeah, she's blaming herself. She's like, did I do this because I broke up the Grey Council? Is this on me? Everything that's happening. And Lennier says that, well, Valen always said that the Grey Council would break apart during the war and the prophecy. And I love that Delen says, yeah, but Valen was just Sinclair. And Sinclair didn't know it was going to come after the war. Like he knew it was going to happen up to a point because he just, I kind of like that acknowledgement of like, yeah, he wasn't actually some big biblical figure. He was just
our spiritual advisor or whatever from way back in the past is somebody we know, and he's just a guy. Yeah,
and he did have real important knowledge because he's from the future, and also Sinclair was a pretty good guy who was probably promoting nice things, but ultimately
spreading the seed around too.
Yes, he's spreading the seed around. But ultimately, he is just a guy. And I kind of liked Delen saying that. I thought that was a nice, neat little touch that just added some nuance and a little bit of, just, I don't know, grounded reality to like what she talks about a lot. I like that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, that was neat. But yeah, Neron pisses off. Do you know what's funny? Because Neron, I think the first time we saw him, we thought of him as very, Shakespearean. He's an actor. He's really putting on the voice. But I think because we had a couple of awkward guest stars playing Minbari in the last few episodes, I think I really appreciate Neron now, because he don't get me wrong, he is very theatrical in his acting.
He's very big, yeah.
But he's a lot better than some of the guest stars that we had, in that episode recently.
I thought the exact same thing, actually, watching this episode. Was that he didn't seem so bad this time.
I appreciate his performance now in a way that... And it's not that I didn't like him before, but I think I definitely found a new appreciation just based on the comparison.
Yeah.
So, that's good. It's good stuff.
I wonder if Minbari, how different they are in each different caste. Like, do they, like, Delenn obviously is a very spiritual person, so she has these rituals for everything. And, like, literally everything has a ritual attached to it. Or if, like, the working class are like, yeah, we don't give a shit about rituals. we need to get stuff done fast. We're building.
Yeah.
And the warrior caste are like, well, we'll do the rituals that help us fight better, but that's about it.
I wonder if that's why the working caste are kind of the third one, and there's kind of the forgotten. They're literally the working class, is because the religious caste and the warrior class have this great purpose one way or the other to their devotion, whereas the working caste to an extent almost just feels like the leftovers, the ones who don't have this like calling to one or the other.
The ones that aren't ambitious.
Yeah. Maybe that's a mystery. Maybe it's the sort of thing we'll learn more about this third caste at some point. But we've all the way back from when we were introduced the idea of the different castes, when the warrior caste first like visited the station, it's always just been the religious caste and the warrior caste that we've been dealing with. So
well, the Great Council was made up of all three, but I mean
they never specified which ones were.
It was always just like the religious and the warrior, button heads.
Yeah, but I don't think it was ever obvious which ones were the working caste, if they ever did specify.
I don't know. Don't they shape their bones differently?
Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe it's maybe if you go back and analyze the bone structure, you can see which ones are which.
There's just a tool belt.
It's the Swiss Army bone.
Nice.
No, I like this. Obviously, there's a couple of dated CG shots of Minbar like on fire and stuff. I did appreciate it. Did look like they actually shot some people running around with stretchers, because they didn't look like CG figures, because we've seen CG figures on this move around in the big shots.
No, it was definitely filmed, because I particularly had my eye on one guy who was just like running around like this with his arms out. It was kind of silly, but I appreciate that they did that, and not that he wasn't just a CG guy puppet.
I can appreciate that. I think it's one of those things where obviously you have this fantastical world that we don't see a whole lot of, and given the time period there's only so much they can do, but to their credit, there is a distinct look of the three planets now, of these races, that I can kind of conjure in my head, even though we don't see that much of them, between Centauri Prime, the Narn homeworld, and Minbar. So
yeah, we haven't seen too much of Narn, I don't think, but it's very red.
Yeah, we see a lot of the underground, I think, whenever we've seen it. We always get this idea it's a bit harsh, and I get the impression it's kind of like red. Mars. Just whether that's because it's naturally like that, or it's just because of what the Centauri did to it when they were occupying it. Because they've said multiple times that the resources and stuff, and the pollution, and like they kind of stripped it bare and all that. So
yeah, that's true.
It'd be kind of like if aliens came and caused all the climate change and then left, we'd be pissed about it.
Right.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Or like any place that white people went to.
Yeah, that's the obvious comparison that they've been drawing on for like all of the show.
Yeah.
I mean, Centauri Prime, or just the Centauri, I should say, are very much representative of that type of thing. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was a fun idea. I liked the contrast of the two plots, because one was kept quite light, even though the goals of it and why Sheridan was doing all this was about something serious. It did get to have fun with it, and it got to include a lot of characters. Londo had a couple of scenes with him. I particularly like the scenes of we get like the Drazi like ambassador is the main one we follow, going around like asking questions, and he talks to Sheridan, he talks to Londo, and I think Londo having to deny, because that's what Sheridan asked him to. He's like, hey, if anyone asks you about this, you have to deny it. And it was kind of weird that he doesn't just admit to Londo why he should deny it. That was maybe a little interesting to me, is that he doesn't just say what his plan is. He's like, he's keeping it to himself. I guess the point is, if no one else knows what he's doing, then it'll work better, because it really is just everyone just has like a small rumor to play with on their own, and
it's the creation of FOMO.
Yeah,
the fear of missing out.
Wait, the Centauri have these ships that patrol on the border. We want them too.
We deserve them.
We demand these things. Damn it.
Yeah, it's an interesting strategy, but it's worked. It worked, so it's good.
I had fun with it, and everyone got to be involved pretty much. I did
Got a nice scene with Franklin. Yeah,
I did notice though, because he does mention, Sheridan says to Londo that he's had the same conversation with Jakar, which I thought was fine for the conversation about telling him that this, like, making this request. But I did think it was notable that when the Drazi guy is going to Londo and asking this, like, it felt like it should have cut to like him asking Jakar as well, and to hear what Jakar's response was. And obviously, the show likes to like rotate through its cast members a little bit to probably, I assume, save some money, or maybe save on the makeup, because like they have to always make up Jakar completely.
Jakar's a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Which is not a big deal, but it's just because they mentioned him and then we never saw him at all. It just kind of stuck out to me a little bit more in this episode. But
you're right, I did notice that too. I was like, oh well, maybe his scene got cut. Cut for time.
Little detail I really liked is the please stand by screen for Bab TV. There's a little photo of Clark with like a censor sign over his face or something like that in the
is
top.
That who it was?
Yeah.
That's funny.
That gave me a chuckle. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah. So no. That was a solid episode. The Minbari stuff is definitely the more dramatic and the more intense stuff. It's something as simple as after the warrior attacks Nero, and there's a little moment where Delenn kind of says in front of the other like religious caste, oh, of course, like they've done this, luckily we don't have to worry about that in our cast, and they've already planted the poison bomb to kill everyone.
Exactly.
And they're all kind of looking at each other like, oh no we might have done goofed.
I wonder if Lennier is going to tell her at all, because Lennier knows he was eavesdropping.
Yeah.
I was able to find it.
Well, that's kind of the beautiful moment. Well, actually, yeah, I'm glad actually you brought that up, because I might have glossed over this otherwise. Probably the best scene in the episode, honestly, is Lennier's speech to the religious cast, because after she's like said, Delenn's with them and she leaves, all the religious cast who were plotting this, like the 4 or 5 who were involved, they circle around him and ask like why he didn't rat them out, and he gives this great speech about how Delenn is this great person who this almost sounds like like he's insulting her in a way, but he talks about how she's sort of in her own world versus the world that we all live in, where she believes in people in a way that is almost naive, but it's actually really beautiful, that she believes that people are better than they are, that they are stronger than they are, and that he doesn't want to ruin that. He doesn't want to ruin that by showing her that all of these people who are supposed to be there to support her turned their back on her in this really vile way. And this idea that he is continually protecting her and trying to uphold the version of the world that she believes exists, because he wants it to exist, because he sees the value in her belief that it exists. I thought it was a really beautiful little speech, and kind of just tied into more of why Lennier is so devoted to being there for her, and why he is such a loyal protege, or attaché, as Jakar would call it.
Award.
Award, yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, Delenn even says that she's training him like the cat once trained her, so.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a little like passive aggressive, like also like F you guys for not like being better.
Yeah.
So be better from now on.
He's trying to teach them a lesson effectively in the moment, and making it clear that you effed up and this is your chance to do better. This is your chance to like not have the consequences that should happen. And it just be the Minbari that Delenn believes you to be, rather than the Minbari that you already were.
Exactly.
Which is kind of again, I think it's just kind of a sweet thing, and it's this side. It's someone who is a fan of Superman in particular, and even Star Trek. Like Picard and Star Trek kind of falls into this sometimes as well. This idea of believing in the best in people and trying to inspire that in them. And I think the idea that Delenn is kind of got some of those ideals, but you have this kind of, not that Lennier's cynical, but this character who maybe sees the flaw in that, but sees the value in someone having those beliefs, and sees the value in someone inspiring that in others. And if maybe if he can help her in his own way, that eventually it'll be true, the world she says she believes in will exist. And I don't know. I think there's some kind of sweetness in that, and there's some hope in it, and all the rest of it. Like I say, as a Superman fan, this appeals to me.
Yeah, of course. I could see that. I mean, it's just lead by example. And, maybe it is a bit naive, and maybe it's because Lennier is younger, or maybe he comes from the streets of Minbar. I don't know. So maybe he's got some street smarts to him. It's like, people still lie even when they say they're telling the truth.
Is he like for the same school of hard knocks that Tasha Yar grew up in? Is it Lennier and Tasha were?
Those are very different streets for poor Tasha. Constantly dodging rape gangs.
Maybe that was Minbar. I don't know. She never specified.
Maybe there's a future where Minbar allows humans to colonize.
Possibly. I don't know. Yeah.
Maybe that's why there's rape gangs now, because they allow humans there.
Oh yeah, humans ruined everything. Yes. I mean, I can believe that for sure. But yeah. I really like the Minbari stuff. There's some good character beats for Lennier and Valen. And I thought the plot with Sheridan was quite fun. Even if you can question it a little bit, I do think technically he's right. There's no lies happening. It's all just a little push and a nudge for the better. Yeah,
I guess. I mean, the episode title is called like Rumors, Bargains, and Lies or something like that. So I mean, he's starting rumors, but it is manipulative, and he's trying to start this whole honesty thing. That's all. But technically he's not lying.
Yeah. I mean,
he's just walking on thin ice is all.
There's such a thing as a little white lie, right?
Of course, yeah.
There is such a thing. And I guess
you look great in that dress. Yeah.
you could read this as like a little bit of a commentary on how even leaders of civilizations are still kind of like children sometimes in a way, and you have to treat them with kid gloves. And
I believe that.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a thing, and I can see
very old babies.
The commentary in there. That works for me. I can get on board with it. So yeah, that was a good episode. I think this is probably again a little better than I think this one and the last one were significantly more interesting than maybe the few before. Which were
the Mars stuff was, I don't know, it was all right.
Yeah, so it's definitely building stuff. There's a lot of themes at play. And again, this idea of the optics of something versus the reality of it. Even these rumors of like getting people on board with something based on these optics. Still, that theme is kind of at play. And hell, even the Lennier speech about Valen and like her vision of the world versus the reality of it, and like so it's not even necessarily that the optics are always bad versus reality, or they're truer versus reality. It's that there's a use for both, and that there's just you just have to understand the difference and understand how to use. Like there's I see a lot of things playing into the themes in ways that aren't just the one way, which is kind of nice as well. So let's go. But there you go. That is the episode. Rumors, Bargains, and Lies. By all means, let us know what you think of the episode in the comments below. You can like and subscribe, ding the bell for notifications. All that does help a lot on YouTube. Tara, where can they go to support us further?
That's right, Peter. If you enjoy our reviews,
I specifically phrased that so you couldn't do it.
Do you want to do it?
No, but I'm just saying.
Then why are you interrupting me?
You're being cheeky. That's all. You're being cheeky.
I'm being cheeky. So British. Check us out on patreon.com/MalphusTV. Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
Get the show a week early, maybe. Or...
Well, 6 days. Don't lie.
Bonus content.
Lots of good stuff on there.
Yes. So, yes, thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5. Just don't give away the home world.